Hello, my friends. It's kind of a pre-review thing I've decided to do because it seemed a it seemed a damn shame to just not be outside at some point for this lovely day. I'm going to be reviewing this Graflex CE in a few minutes, and I just decided to kind of start off the video out here before I moved indoors to do the actual. To do the actual review. And one of the things I wanted to say is if I could choose a saber to send back in time to myself as a child, post the release of Star Wars, I was around for that. This would probably be the one saber that would blow my mind and consequently probably destroy all of space-time when someone reverse engineered the technology and create a paradox that would eventually alter history in such a way as to end it. So I won't do that, but then again, I don't have the requisite 1.21 gigawatts of energy available to do such a thing, even if I turn this saber on. This thing is just brilliant. The last thing I wanted to say before I get to the review is I'm probably going to be getting myself a photon blade for this. But that's incumbent upon the outcome of a claim that I have with Etsy regarding something that has nothing to do with this. Free up some money, and I think I'm going to load up on some blades. Yeah. Anyway, so here you go. It's the Graflex CE. Outdoors in the sunlight. Today is a perfect day. And now I'm going to head on indoors and we'll talk about this thing. How's that sound? Yeah, alrighty then. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, now, before I really get into the meat of talking about this Ultrasabers Graflex CE, just a little bit of a backstory. I purchased this secondhand from a seller on eBay, and it is more or less pristine. However, there was a bit of an issue with the soundboard on the saber, the diamond controller in actuality, and the green LED wasn't working. So I shipped this off to Ultrasabers to be repaired. This was prior to the great email debacle of the spring of 2020, and I didn't really receive any communication regarding this beauty for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then it just showed up on my doorstep with a note saying that they had swapped out the diamond controller and completely replaced it for free. I was expecting to incur charges. And they also provided me with a new set of batteries. I had actually purchased some Trustfire batteries for this hilt because this is one of those sabers that is going to be one of the marquees of my collection. It sort of represents the pinnacle of my Star Wars fandom, I guess, to a certain degree. I know that this isn't the ideal Graflex, for most people, but for me, this kind of fills a lot of the needs that I have as a Star Wars fan. So much so that, as I said just previously, I'm probably going to get myself a nice photon blade for it and just have as much fun as I can with this hilt. So it is It is, as I said, a Graflex CE, and it has the nickel-plated finish. And the nickel-plated finish is not as much of a fingerprint magnet as you would expect. I consider this sort of the Anakin Skywalker version of the Graflex saber, simply because of this section here. I do have a master replica Anakin saber, which eventually I'll do a comparison with. I have all these comparisons lined up, but so little time to do them all. Um, and yeah, so that, this saber kind of reminds me of that, as far as this section, and the bunny ears are sort of very similar to the mass replicas version, rather than a traditional Graflex version. Even if I don't have a Corbanth or well, any of the myriad brands. I don't have a Vaderswald. I don't even have a Saberforged version of a Graflex. I just have this, my master replicas, and the Hasbro version. And the Hasbro version has the bunny ears that kind of are a little bit spring loaded, a little bit more representative of the actual Graflex. The materials that the prop was made from was kind of a photographic. I believe it was a kind of a flash handle or something to that effect. So this sort of it covers all the basics of the Graflex, all the cues that make it recognizable as a Graflex derived saber. So yeah, this has the little nut there. I think you can get a flatter version of that when you order this. You can also, the little lenses here, you can get a different color versions. Whoever had purchased this before me opted to go red, and red on that lens. It works out okay. And you have your little pins, which are on both sides. Very lovely. Now the way this works is you actually you remove this, and I believe this whole unit comes out. There's a couple screws that hold the blade in place, so you secure the blade into the holder. It is a 1-inch diameter variety. Slide it in, and then you tighten this, and so there's multiple lattices kind of holding this in place. One of the things that I don't really care for, but I suppose it's from a mechanical standpoint, how it would have to be, is there's a screw that kind of holds on the bunny ears, and I've had some issues with the bunny ears getting loose, but since I tightened it up the last time, it's been pretty firm, so not too much of an issue there. And of course, the Graflex has your S-shaped angled emitter. Very lovely. There's one little cosmetic flaw right there, but that was there when I received the saber, and I think it kind of came from Ultrasabers in that shape. But overall, it's pristine. As I've said previously, I love the nickel-plated finish. I was speaking to one of my subscribers had commented about the quality of the nickel-plated finish, and I find that the quality of the finishing process from Ultrasabers, as far as the nickel plating goes, to me, and I know this is blasphemous to say, this is a much higher quality than what I find on the nickel-plated finishes of my Saberforge sabers. The Saberforge sabers, they tend to get scuffed up really easily, and then there's very little that I can do as far as storage with my current situation to keep them from getting scuffed up. But I have no issues with this. It doesn't really pick up fingerprints, and it has a really, really nice finish. It's kind of tactile. Very lovely. The nickel plating doesn't continue to the switch section here. Now, a lot of people don't really care much for this switch section. I've seen, actually, recently, quite a few posts on Facebook regarding this switch section. And I have no issues with it. It's not obviously screen accurate whatsoever. It doesn't have the bubble strip. It doesn't have the little clamping mechanism. It's just sort of Ultrasaber's functional take on it, and it works. It doesn't impede the comfort of the saber. For a Graflex, which isn't traditionally known as a terribly comfortable saber or hilt, this is actually extremely comfortable. It's lightweight. There are no sharp edges. It's just a dream to swing and handle. This is probably the nicest Graflex from the standpoint of being able to handle it. So you have your standard non-backlit AV switch, anti-vandal switch, which is exactly what I would go with on this particular saber. I wouldn't see a need to have it illuminate. It just seems like it would detract from the whole Graflex styling. I don't know. Here's your T-grip section. The nickel plating continues on this section all the way to the pommel. Now, obviously, your traditional Graflex would have a D-ring on the bottom, and the original Graflex from the movie, being made from actual found materials, had information on the bottom for the Graflex camera company, and they are based out of New York, as far as I know. And if you stop frame while watching The Empire Strikes Back, the scene where Luke escapes from the Wampa and the saber's in the ice while he's using the Force to remove it from the ice so he can free himself, you can actually see where it says New York Graflex Company, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of a neat little bit of trivia there. So it's become sort of incumbent upon anybody that makes a Graflex replica to incorporate that into the design for screen accuracy. So I think that's pretty cool. But this one just utilizes T-grips. These are sort of I don't know, they're like a pseudo rubber plastic material, as these T-grips often are. I imagine they're just kind of glued on or double-sided taped on, but they're very secure. And this hilt utilizes the CoverTech system. So if you're willing to use the requisite Allen key size, which is larger than your standard Allen key, I don't know what the exact size is, to remove this and then to use the standard size Allen key to remove the blade from the holder, put a blade plug in here, insert all this thing, tighten it back up, and wear it on your belt. If you don't mind the 10-minute transition time, you can wear this on your belt and pretend that you're Anakin or Luke or even Rey, I guess. So that pretty much, I don't know, that pretty much covers the hilt. There's not too much to say. Most people are sort of familiar with this. Now, as I said, this is a diamond controller saber. It'll be probably the only diamond controller saber that I'm ever going to bother owning. I don't have the need to get any others. This is pretty much this covers it for me. This is all I need. And I'm very happy with the saber. Now, I did a video that just showed the basic functioning of the diamond controller. This has all the standard fonts that came with it. Well, I am assuming that they were, since the diamond controller was installed by someone from Ultrasabers. But I can just briefly sort of demonstrate basically how this works. Obviously, you turn it on as you normally would. Swing functions. Clash. And if you want to change font, you basically hold the button and thrust, and you turn your saber and then hit the button, and then you have your next font. Episode 6. So turning it right goes in one direction on the fonts, turning it left goes the opposite direction on the fonts. So if you pass the font that you want, you can just do that and go right back to where you were. The way the saber works is if you stab, you get a stab effect. If you do this, you get that effect. I don't know if that's meant to be a force push or whatever. And while all the sabers on. I believe you can, I think it's a matter of holding the button, tapping the saber on the side, and then pointing it up or down, and it will go up or down in volume, so you can adjust the volume as you see fit, which I can't do obviously with one hand. And as far as features go, I've watched a plethora of diamond controller videos, and a lot of them tend to be, well, as far as trying to learn how the controls work. Ultrasabers videos are a little bit outdated. They show the functionality of the older diamond controller, which had Fiona. I believe that's what Darth Cephalus designated her, and I can't stand listening to that. It's obnoxious. I don't play around with the. Now there's other features. I can't remember what they're called. You kind of you get into a moment where you can set the saber and then do it. It's gestures. I don't play around with gestures. I find that's just kind of a fiasco. There are gestures sort of introduced into the saber which cause certain effects with the different fonts, and I'm not playing around with that. And I may or may not add or subtract some fonts from here, but I think I'm just going to keep this pretty much stock. I don't really have too much of a desire to change too much, but going back to the content on YouTube regarding the functionality of the diamond controller, it's a lot of the conversations tend to go on, and they don't really reveal too much. So that's why I'm just kind of try to keep it as brief as possible. So I just showed you what I know how to do, and pretty much that sort of covers exactly what I wanted to cover with the Graflex CE. This is a very, very worthwhile saber as far as I'm concerned to own. It really it fits my need for a Graflex at the moment. I mean, I would like to get myself something a little bit more screen accurate and load it up with features. But for the most part, this is sufficient. I feel that Ultrasabers did a very good job on this particular representation of the Graflex, and they did fine by me as far as repairing it. They weren't very communicative, but that's sort of been an ongoing issue with Ultrasabers lately. I have a couple orders in the works, and they will not contact me, and we're going on 5 weeks now for both the orders, and they're really, really simple orders, and I won't get into it, but suffice to say, I'm not too happy with them from a communication standpoint. Other people have had better luck, but not so much me. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, yeah, this is essentially the Graflex CE. It's a wonderful saber, and yeah, I'm glad to have it in my collection. And yeah, so that pretty much covers it, doesn't it? So let's just do one more thing that I neglected to do. This is currently on high volume. Couldn't get the flash to work. Yeah, so basically that's it. I just wanted to give you kind of a sense of how loud this thing is. It is on full volume right now. And that pretty much wraps up this video. So I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up in the comments section, and I'll try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. And hope you care to subscribe to my channel, like or dislike it, whatever is appropriate. And I will see you next time with either an unboxing or another review or something of that nature. You have a fine day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care now. Bye.